We got to talk to Manny. He seems like he's really matured this year and talking about kind of being where his feet are. How much have you seen that from him this year, and coming even from the injury last year?
I actually think it's the hardest thing to do for student athletes in 2023, what Mo's doing. I hope he plays great. We need him to play great. I just think it's really hard. It doesn't matter the sport, but with all that has changed and all of the voices that surround these young men and women, for him to go about his fight in the way that he has, in truth, it kind of reminds me of when I was early in my career, because there weren't as many choices. There weren't as many options. And honestly, Travis, I've just told him every third day, I admire you. Thanks for being an example to me. Because he could have handled it completely different in his body language, in his words, in the people that are in his sphere of influence. Not his mom, not his dad, not his mentor. They've never even sent me a text message. What's going on with Manny? Not one. And I actually think that subliminally he's had an impact within our organization, specifically to his teammates, on not many things are going my way, and look at how I'm handling it. And it's created a little bit of where they're cheering for him, even though they wouldn't articulate it that way. And I think that'll be good for him for his life, because he hasn't tried to hit the escape valve. He hasn't blamed anybody. He hasn't complained. He hasn't tried to defend his position. He's just been incredibly disciplined in his routine, in his emotional intelligence. You just don't see it very often. And I appreciate the example that he's been to all of us in that regard.
And if he had handled it differently, he wouldn't be here right now.
That's what I think, Brent. You guys know this, and I'm not saying it's the right way to do it, and I don't know that you can do it this way anymore. I talked to you guys. I would have said that if Mo was standing right here. And if you guys weren't here, I would still tell Mo that. And broke his hand, you remember, at Florida, game number 1. Set out the next 16 games. And then I was telling him when he came back, you can't redshirt. You played one too many games. We can't change that. But we're a different team doing different things than when you left. So we just need you to throw good pitches. And you're not going to be able to make up for lost time. I actually thought he handled that really well. And then some of the exposure, because he's such a good kid, that comes from, oh, he's healthy and he's back and he's a good player and he's going to play all the minutes, and Twitter says he's a starter, and then he's a low minute guy. And he still just handles it with such grace. And yeah, you don't know that when you're recruiting someone, but man, they haven't, none of them have done anything but be incredibly supportive of what we do and how we do it. Like his mentor, his mom and dad, they've never seen him play. And like his mentor has been like, that was during COVID, obviously, when him and Forrest signed. Like he's been so loyal to us. And I tell him, it's so refreshing to talk to you. Like when I see you, I know you don't have a hidden agenda and you're not going to ask me for something. And yeah, I guess that's what it's supposed to be. And I appreciate that.
I don't think, obviously it wouldn't be fair to.
That looks nice, Olin.
Thank you. I was trying to keep up with you, man.
No, that looks
Well,
nice.
thank you. Yeah, obviously unfair to expect him to go out and score 21 points every night, but.
I think that was his career high, wasn't it?
But, do you look at him now? Does that make you think, hey, we got another source of consistent scoring?
I think a little bit of the answer would be, I think Travis asked it post-game. We tried to figure out relative to the opponent when Wildens will be his best. And it happened a little bit organically in Florida. You guys remember when we played Florida Atlantic? I think Mo was really good that game, wasn't he? I think Four had his career high that game. Obviously, Florida Atlantic's better than us. But how they played fit Four and Mo perfectly. And then against Iowa State, Mo was not very good. And that game didn't fit Mo very well. And to the original question, I think that speaks to his maturity, is I'm telling him, this is what I think. This is what they're going to do to you. This is how we're going to handle it. Do you understand? And I think he keeps growing in that regard. Do I think he's going to do it every game? No. Do I think he's a good player who is growing in his confidence because he's fought through things the right way? For sure. Do we need him to help have a secondary ball handler? Yes. Do we need somebody that is a perimeter-oriented scorer in addition to what we currently have? Yes. And his physicality comes out in different ways that also plug some holes that our team needs.
With how Houston plays defense, especially on the ball screen, not to get too tactical, but does that change the way that you look at your offense?
Yeah, so you know all the numbers. The reason why they're number one in Ken Palm and number two in the net is because of their DER. Like they're allowing teams 0.73 points per possession. I think 6 teams have scored 55 or less against them. So, yes, sir, it is their ball screen coverage, and that's a part of it. It is their turnover rate. That's a part of it. I think it's just who Coach is. I think it's who Coach has been since he was at Montana Tech. I didn't know him then. I was begging him to hire me when he was the coach at Oklahoma. That's who he was then. I don't think he tries to hide anything. He wants to be the hardest playing, most physical team, regardless of level of talent on both ends of the floor. We're going to shoot more balls than you because we're going to take it from you. And if you do shoot it, we're going to get it. And then when we're on offense, we're not going to turn it over and we're going to shoot it. And we're going to at least get it once before you get it back. And so the pressure of physicality that they play with, most teams throughout his career, I think this is his 31st year as a head coach in Division I. I think he's been to the tournament 19 times. I think he's 9th on the active Division I coaching list. Like he's today if the people that had sense made sensical decisions, he would be in the Hall of Fame. And that's why I admire him so much, and I always have, and he knows this. It's all just based on grit, toughness, attitude, effort, all of those words. That's his team. And that's his team at Washington State, which is how he got the Oklahoma job. That was his team for 12 years at Oklahoma. That was his team at Indiana. I think the thing he would say, and that was towards the end of my tenure at Marquette when he was an assistant with the Bucks, is they probably do a little bit more lipstick on the pig offensively than he once did. But in regards to the core of it, it's a heavyweight fight or football without shoulder pads and a helmet, whatever words you want to use. That's who he is. That's how he's coached. That's how he's built a career. That's how all of those former players that are on his staff, like, they grew up in it. That's what it is. There's only one message. This message is what it's going to be.
Are you able to use the Virginia game at all? I mean, are there any similarities with, two good defensive teams? Does that help, I guess, prepare for a team like Houston?
It will make you. They both suffocate you and take your oxygen from you. Respectful to Coach Bennett as well, but it's a different type of suffocation. But the difficulty in scoring, it's the same. But how they do it, tactically, it's different.
And then just games like this, and you've already played several against, top competition. Do you get the sense, is your team are they enjoying the rigorous kind of pre-conference schedule? Do they get how this is helping them?
To some degree, I think they do. I don't spend a lot of time on it. I'm going to touch it for about 50 seconds when I go downstairs. I think this will be our 7th quad 1 or quad 2 game. I think SMU became a quad 2 game this morning, if you looked it up. Memphis will continue to go in an upward trajectory. We helped them with that. I think they understand bits and pieces of it. Rigorous is for sure a good adjective towards it. I think the intensity required mentally, physically, and emotionally is new to. That's the price of admission for this, right? And I think there's a part as a athlete where you think, yeah, it's required on game day, right? Yes. But then when you are doing it as often as we're doing it, I think what our guys are picking up on is, you mean we have to do this every day so it becomes our habit? Yes. And Rock said this, you mentioned Virginia. I go out on the floor for 17 minutes at a certain time on game day. And I always sit with Rock and I drink an energy drink. And that's kind of like my recess for the whole day. From the time I wake up until that 17-minute break, everything's kind of structured. And so I sat down at UVA, and he said, well, the one good thing about playing the schedule we're playing is you don't have to worry if the guys are excited to play. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I hadn't thought about that, right? You don't have to get them excited about the game because they understand the game. And they understand this game. Today is 2 days, so we're just now about to start preparation. But our guys